right, so hey everybody, I just wanted to I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and just let a few people get on, and then once we have a small group, I want to introduce you guys to a video that I just dropped if you haven't seen it already. But the reason why I want to play it here as well is because I want to make sure that everybody gets to the very end, because there's a point to the video, and there's a video clip. There comes text at the end, and then my man Yuri Bezmenov comes in and drops a main point, and that point is the entire video. And so I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to watch it. Once you do, all right, what I'm going to ask you to do, so we uploaded this video I'm about to show. We uploaded it separately to YouTube, so you may have seen it because we just shared it on Facebook just before coming live. So you should see it in our Facebook feed as well. But I'm going to ask you to share it so that we can help spread the word. Because, and when you share it, please note on it in your comment for them to wait to the end. And you'll see why in a second. You'll see the point that I'm trying to make with this video in just a second. So without any further, we got a decent little crew on now, 10 or 15 people. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and run it. And then, later on, we'll mention it again. If anybody misses it, you can come back and check it out again. But let's go ahead without any further ado.
If you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
It's not so much staying alive. Staying human is important.
There are thought criminals who maintain that the resistance is not real. Believe me, Winston, it is very real.
We have just established a Mis- and Disinformation Governance Board in the Department of Homeland Security to more effectively combat this threat, not only to election security, but to our homeland security. We are disseminating information to the Secretaries of State. We are counseling them and providing resources to ensure better physical security. The fundamental integrity of our democratic processes is at stake.
They are actually going to create, in the Department of Homeland Security, a Bureau of Disinformation. It's basically a ministry of truth. They want to be able to put out false narratives without people being able to speak out and fight back. And when you speak out, they want to stifle dissent.
Only the disciplined mind can see reality.
They can torture you and make you say anything. They can't make you believe it.
What are your true feelings towards Big Brother?
I hate him.
You must love him. It's not enough to obey.
Mattais Desmet is a professor of psychology at Ghent University and also holds a master's degree in statistics. And from his base of knowledge, he has a very interesting and important take on everything that's happening in the world right now.
To suddenly see that what we were dealing with was a large-scale phenomenon of mass formation.
The result you can see.
In 2008, Thomas Beatty, a man, gave birth not by a C-section to a healthy baby girl. His pregnancy was a pretty big deal. He was on Oprah, became a public speaker, and later gave birth to 2 more children.
Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern.
If under these conditions, a narrative, a story, is distributed through the mass media, indicating an object of anxiety, and at the same time providing a strategy to deal with this object of anxiety, then the following happens. All the free-floating anxiety, which is extremely painful because it always threatens to turn into panic. So all this free-floating anxiety is attached to, connected to the object of anxiety indicated in the narrative, and there is a huge willingness to participate in the strategy to deal with this object of anxiety. Because in this way, people feel that they can control their anxiety and their psychological discontent better. And that leads up to something very specific. People suddenly feel connected again in a heroic struggle with the object of anxiety. So, a new kind of solidarity, a new kind of social bond, and a new kind of meaning-making, sense-making emerges in society. And that's the reason why people follow the narrative, why people buy into the narrative, and why they are willing to participate in the strategy, even if it is utterly absurd.
The disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. For those of you who caught it all, the point that I wanted to get to, and why I wanted you to wait to the end, why I want you to share it, and why I want you to make that point in your comment when you share it, is because people's attention spans suck, and as we all know, and in the end, that last part where Yuri Bezmenov basically breaks down the simple point that unlike him, you will have nowhere to defect to. This is the last stand. This is it. Right. So, and we're going to get into this conversation about Biden's new board of disinformation. It compelled me to incorporate the 1984 movie into the video because it is so Orwellian. Is it not? Is it not so? Does it not scream, for those of you who are familiar with the 1984 movie? Does it not scream Ministry of Truth, right? How many times have you heard it? I know you guys must have come across this at some point during, just from following things and just from being connected. The story's been kind of big. If you haven't, and this is the first time you're hearing it, through the Department of Homeland Security, all right? And this is run by Alejandro Mayorkas, right? He's the secretary, and he's the one that we put in that video who was announcing it. It wasn't even announcing it. He was just explaining that they're forming it. They have created literally now. This is not like it almost sounds like they're punking you, but they actually are going out and creating a Disinformation Governance Board. All right. So to me, and I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this, but to me, this is a direct reaction. All right. It's not a coincidence that this just comes to be right after Elon Musk buys Twitter. Like, there's sheer panic right now, more so than I even initially, I knew they'd be concerned about it, but there's sheer panic about Twitter being a free speech platform. Like, they've lost control of one of the big ones, right? And completely lost control of it. So like there's no board to pressure. There's no, there's nowhere to apply heat, right? Because it's a private owner, and he's a private owner who doesn't give a damn. So, my take on it is that, now that they're doing this, they're going to start trying again. They're going to start trying to usurp the Constitution again. Now, they've lost, fortunately, at every front so far that they've tried, but they try it, and we have to deal with it for months before the courts get hold of it and finally shoot it down. But like, it's just think about it, right? Just think of the idea of a Disinformation Governance Board. Like, no matter how they describe it, and he described it, I put in a video how Mayorkas described it, but in the end, no matter what context you try to put that in, it doesn't end well. Like, just to even have the thought that you could do something like that, like, you simply can't do that. But they did it, right? And that's becoming the hallmark of the Biden administration, is that whoever his handlers are, like, they're going to push the envelope to every last limit that's humanly possible. And his handlers need to be dealt with. Like they need to be, we need to figure out who exactly is, because it's clearly not Biden. I mean, if you're that much, and I added in into that video, I added in Mattais Desmet. Dr. Mattais Desmet is an expert on mass formation, and he's the one. If you heard back when mass formation was trending, and a lot of people thought it was Dr. Robert Malone because he was talking about it on the Joe Rogan show, and that's what made it go viral. But Dr. Malone clearly states in every interview that it was Dr. Mattais Desmet that he had been learning from, because Desmet had been studying mass formation for years before COVID, before any of this. And what's funny is, I didn't put it in the clip, but Desmet says in that interview, and by the way, the links to those full interviews, both Yuri Bezmenov and Mattais Desmet, are in the description, okay? For all platforms, they're in the description, all right? So just keep that in mind. So when we're done, you can get the full context of what they're trying to tell you and what they're trying to explain to you. In the case of Mattais Desmet, what he's trying to explain is how this mass formation comes about. Okay. And that's a more current. So he's talking about it in terms of the reaction to COVID and the answers to the questions that many of us have as to why do people follow irrational rules? If a rule makes no sense, why are we not why isn't everyone jumping up and being like, what the hell are you doing? Right. So, and in the end, the people who do come out and say, what the hell are you doing, are generally ostracized even by the people who know that it's BS. So, and I talk about this in terms of mass formation and in terms of Solomon Asch's conformity experiments that have been done. Many of them have been done and repeated and gotten the same results, that somewhere around 30% of participants, will recognize that something that the answer is not what the group answered. And then, another 30% not only agreed with the group, but will argue and fight to swear that it's the right answer, even though it was clearly and obviously the wrong answer. And then there's that 40% in the middle that I always pick on, because that's that 40% in the middle are the ones that are really the problem here, not the 30% who will argue and believe that men can have babies and do all that crazy stuff. Hey, Scott, how are you, sir? We got Scott Morris on saying sorry for the late join today. I'm here now. Outstanding. Scott, you missed the intro video. I put it, but you can catch it. I put it on YouTube separately, and I also posted that link to our Facebook page. But when you watch that video, as I told everybody here, watch it all the way to the end. So anybody who joined in late here, watch that video all the way to the end, because the main point of the video comes at the very, very, very end. So definitely check that up. And here we go with Kevin. Yeah, it looks like, so as far as videos and clips go, you hit on the truth. Think about the platform like TikTok. Statistics show most people will watch for only 7 to 15 seconds, per video, unless the content and video appeals to the view to watch longer. It is designed that way to push and help short attention span and interest. Yeah. So all the stuff that I've seen, and I don't follow any of this stuff. I don't care. I'm paying for this channel. I'll do what I damn well please. But in the end, I when I put up videos, I in the beginning I was looking up different channels, like how to do it, what to do. And it took us, we've been around for a year, and really 6 months of that was wasted in not understanding the little nuances of how to gain subscribers, how to get views, how to keep people's interest and things like that. But in the end, the kind of topics we cover and the kind of stuff that we go over, you can't really get those points across in 3 to 5 minute videos. You just can't. and in the end, I had to face a decision where do I bend to everybody's attention span, or do I try to focus on the people who are truly interested and watch throughout and watch these things to the end? Because, in the end, I can't get this content out in 3-minute spits. So if you don't have an attention span, I just can't help you. Maybe in the comments later. I mean, if I had a nickel for every person who reads a title and then starts popping off comments that have nothing to do with the video, but because they only read the title, they assumed a million different things and were wrong on all of them, and I don't even acknowledge those people. I don't even acknowledge them. Like, I spend time to put these videos together, and if someone's going to pop off without even watching, I don't care if you watch it or not, but if you're going to pop off in my comment section without watching it, then that's a different thing. That's a different thing, because that's nonsense. That's BS. That's BS. But anyway, so Biden has put this out there, that it's created this disinformation board, and Nina Jankowicz, if you're not familiar with who she is, so you guys can leave in the comments how much of this story you know already, but like, I'm going to introduce you to this woman, because she is a doo-doo on the next level. I mean, this chick is, so I mean, I could do it all day with just different stuff that she's talked about, but it's clear that this woman is all in for the Marxist messaging. She's all in. She's that, and I mentioned this prior, and sooner or later, I'm going to go back in and watch that entire freaking Great Reset presentation that Klaus Schwab and was it Sadia Zahiri did. And there's a clip in there where he mentions that they're gathering together 10,000 world influencers and leaders, all under the age of 30. Right now, most people will let that roll off their back, but I'm like, no, there's a reason why they're all under the age of 30, and you're going to realize that the people that they start appointing to different positions and things like that are all going to be towards that age level. All right. And there's a reason for that, because those are the freshly minted, they're just fresh off the press Marxists that have come out of there with their, firmly believing in modern monetary theory, firmly believing in critical theory, firmly believing that we should be sexualizing children. Like, these people are all in that camp. And so this Nina, she's no different. All right, she's no different. So she, just to give you, if you haven't seen it already, she's got a YouTube video out there where she explains, what she considers to be misinformation. So let's take a look at it.
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo, and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh!
Now, so as funny as that is, and as kind of ridiculous as that is, one of the things that you'll notice if you can follow through what she was saying in that song, is that all of the lies, quote unquote, and disinformation she finds are on the right. So we already know where this is going, right? But now it's not like these stupid fact check sites that don't fact check anything, but rather, promote Marxist messaging. This is an actual department in an actual organization in the Department of Homeland Security. Like, it's not even created as like an independent regulatory agency. It's attached to the Department of Homeland Security. So like the creepy factor here is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so here we go. We got Louis Sharp says Trudeau has done the same thing. Yeah, Trudeau is like king of creeps, right? But honestly, like, as much as I love our Canadian brothers over there up north, the Canadian system has always been very socialist, like, in comparison, right? I guess it depends what you're comparing it to, right? It's not that socialist when you compare it to like China, but it's socialist when you compare it to the United States. Like, there's just a different, we share a lot of values across the border, but we also have some differences, right? And in the end, it's far creepier, it should be anyway. I don't even want to say it is, because I don't know how many exact Marxists there are out there, but it should be far creepier to someone in the U.S. than any other country in the world, really. I don't want to just point out Canada, but Trudeau, what he's done in Canada, like Biden couldn't even attempt to. It would go out of control. It would get out of control. Like if he tried to do what he did to the truckers and things like it would get out of control. Like when our truckers headed up to the White House, they just lifted the mask mandate and lifted everything immediately before they even got there. That whole point was just like, which, kudos to the truckers, right? Of both countries, right? Kudos to both of them, because they both did accomplish that mission. And in the end, what was that? That was just free people speaking out, right? That's all it was. But in the end, it was an example of power, very much like here in the U.S., like Article 5 is an example of that power, right? And like I said, I've said it a bunch of times. I don't see Democrats and Republicans. I see Marxists and I see Americans. Like that's what I see. Marxists, and in the case of Canada, Marxists and free people. Like that's what I see. And in the end, to me, everyone needs to pick a side. Like the days of just continuing to vote for someone, and this goes for both sides, right? So, in the Democrat situation, if you're that person whose parents were Democrats and their parents were Democrats, so you're a Democrat and you just always showed up and voted for the Democrats, and you don't really pay attention to politics, but you show up every election and you click that Democrat. If the Democrat you're clicking for is a Marxist, you need to get off that. And the same thing, not that all the Marxists are in the, not every Democrat is a Marxist, but every Marxist is in the Democrat Party. They're all they run in the Democratic Party the way libertarians run in the Republican Party. It's just, that's the one they hijacked. They can only hijack one. They chose the Democrats. And in the end, it's like, okay, if you're that person on the Republican side, if you live in Kentucky and you're not showing up to primaries to get Mitch McConnell out of office, you're the same problem, right? So because he is not what we need. He is not on the side of Americans. I can tell you that right now with 100% assurance. That man is as evil as Pelosi or any of these other coconuts that are all of these doo-doo-doos that are running around, Pelosi, Schumer, McConnell's right in that category. Romney, right in that category. Cheney, right in that category. Like these people, if you're Democrat or Republican and you're just clicking that R, you need to understand what a primary is, right? Don't just sit back and not engage the primary and then show up to the general election like, well, I don't want to vote for Romney, but he's on the ticket. So that's like, no, you already dropped the ball if that's the case. Like you already dropped the ball. If you live in one of these states with one of these, I don't even call them rhinos anymore because they're straight out in line with Marxist nonsense. All right, they are. And McConnell's a little more cryptic about it, but in the end, he's just as poisonous as anybody else. He could give two craps about his constituents, the American people, or anyone else. He cares about staying in power and playing the game. That's what he cares about. And in the end, it's on us, right? And this is why, look, if you haven't been introduced to Article 5 yet, if you haven't been, or maybe you have been introduced and someone scared you away from it, please understand, right? Who uses fear tactics, right? Do patriots or conservatives or American-loving Americans, do they use fear tactics? Right? So if someone's trying to convince you that George Soros is somehow advocating, like there are articles out there saying George Soros is advocating convention of states, even though he actively sends his minions to every freaking debate to go ahead and fight against it and on the floor of whether the House or Senate of each state that they're doing it in. Like despite that, they want you to believe that he's in support of it. All right, because that's how narratives work, right? If you want to scare a conservative, tell him George Soros is all about it. Tell him you're agreeing with George Soros, and that'll scare the crap out of him. Like once you see through this and you read up on it on your own, and we will help you on that journey. So if you're going to hear all this, they're going to run away with they're going to rewrite the whole Constitution. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. And in the end, once you understand it and you realize how powerful it is, and you realize just how powerful it is, and trust me, they know how powerful it is. Let me just tell you that. Like there's nothing nothing that the Soros types would fear more than states coming together. They're already annoyed by the states. There's nothing they fear more than states coming together and starting to put things right, and starting to impose things on their beloved central government, which is all necessary for Marxism to work. It can't work with state sovereignty. It can't. The only way it works with state sovereignty is if the federal government continues to have the states deny their own sovereignty and unilaterally disarm themselves. That's the only way that it works. All right, so the states come together, and look, there's nothing that the Pelosi's and the McConnells and the Schumers, there's nothing that these people can do if term limits are imposed on them, okay? We got this Duteru that just got into the freaking Supreme Court, right? She won't even, make a clear statement as to whether a woman is a woman. She needs a biologist's advice to find out if a woman is a woman. She's going to sit on that court for life? Oh, hell no. Hell no. Term limit that chick. Term limit all of them. Term limit all of them, right? Deep state, right? The shady dude in the Men in Black uniform who's freaking, who writes the black budget that nobody gets to read but approves anyway. Yeah, that guy. Term limits, right? That's what we're talking about. That's scary to them, okay? That's 30, 40, 50 years of investment for them that gets thrown away instantly. Fiscal restraints, there's no way for them to do modern monetary theory if the government has to put forth a balanced budget. There's no way. All right, you want to help yourself? You want to help yourself and take this power out of their hands? You want to give your dollar back its value? Well, then get, just like anything else in finance, okay? When you're running up absurd credit, right, and you're printing money which is you can't do, right? But if you're printing money at an absurd level, the dollar just will do nothing but continue what it's done. Get weaker, get weaker, get weaker. But you start paying down the debt. You stop making interest-only payments or not even fully paying the interest, right? Like you stop doing that, and suddenly you become a lot more credit solid. Now, people go, oh, we're the United States, our dollar is so valued that, it doesn't matter. The only reason our dollar is valued, we went through this in other episodes, is because it's the petrodollar and because the world tends to operate on it. So other countries, when they make purchases of petrol and other commodities, they have to convert their money to U.S. dollars first to make those payments. That's something that's fragile and may not be around for a long time. It's already starting to change. So in the end, do you want the dollar to really be worth more, or do you want it to be, fictitiously worth more and continue to build this house of cards that eventually is going to fall apart? And it's not like it slowly falls apart. It crashes. It crashes. So what do we have to do? We have to get to our state legislatures, because truly the way this country is set up, and people don't even know this anymore, the way this country is set up is where the state legislatures are the most powerful bodies in the country. They're more powerful. Excuse me. They're more powerful than the president. They're more powerful than Congress. They're more powerful than anyone. Nobody else has the power of convention of states. Nobody. And the reason why they have it is because this is how the country was designed to run. All right? State legislatures are considered closest to the people. All right? And they are. They are the closest to the people. You can go and meet your state legislature. You can go to your local representative. You can go meet that person. If you call them, you'll probably get a return call. In most cases, you will. If you write them a letter, you'll get a response. Not some cookie-cutter response from an aide who blew you off. When you listen to them talk on the debate floors, even on all these convention of states resolutions that have passed, we've got 19 states that have already passed, 4 in the first 3 months of this year. All right, they started this. Fortunately for us, Convention of States movement was on this long before, because it's not like Biden is the reason why we need Convention of States. He's just a perfect example of the garbage that's been going on for the past 30, 40, 50 years. That's all it is. He's just the latest formation of someone who has allowed the debt to get absolutely out of control. Reagan's in that camp. Think of your favorite president. They're all in that camp. They're all in that camp. People bragging about Clinton's surpluses. That was deficit to surplus. That wasn't the debt. The debt was continuing to move. The debt clock didn't slow down one drop. One drop. And when his economy fell apart and exploded with the internet boom, which is what was carrying it for most of that time, Reagan was getting carried by the credit card boom, which exploded. Like none of the decisions that these people have made fiscally are in your best interest. None of them. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who your president was. I don't care who your boy is. When it comes to either he was too stupid to know that he wasn't helping, or he was intentionally not helping. But in either case, it's become clear that there's only one group that's going to be able to do this, and it's us. We cannot elect our way out of this. I had a comment from Daisy Stowe. They're already sending multiple mail-in ballots out to one person. Yeah. This game is going to go on, folks. It's going to go on. All right. And I don't know how these elections are going to turn out. Obviously, this Nina Jankowicz. There's interviews with her talking about all of the disinformation. And as she goes through it, she talks about the 2016 election, but she don't talk about the 2020 election. Just to again go back to just how creepy and how Ministry of Truth this new Disinformation Board is going to be. All right. So and yeah, are we going to be in for it? Are we in for? I'm dying to see this documentary, 2000 Mules. I'm dying to see it. I know it's just about to come out in early May, and but there's apparently they actually went through thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of video footage at Dropbox locations, like demonstrating the people who middle of the night, 2 a.m. coming in, dropping more ballots in, dropping more, but like crazy stuff. Not that honestly, even with all that info, like there was enough on election night that there should have been major actions taken, at least investigations started, and there was nothing. Like we're up against the machine here, folks. We're up against the machine, and it's like I said, it's us. There's Americans and there's Marxists, and if you're a Democrat who's long voted Democrat, you don't want to come over because you're like, I don't want to call myself a conservative. Don't call yourself a conservative. Call yourself a classic liberal and come over. If you're not a Marxist, you need to get off that team. Because when the Marxists are left alone, all right, when the righteous Democrats walk away because they're not Marxists, it doesn't leave very many people. It's the same thing that happened with Twitter. When they started cleaning up all these bots because Elon Musk was coming in, what happened? What was the end result of that? The end result was leftist influencers were losing tens of thousands of followers overnight as the bots got cleaned out, as Twitter was no longer propping them up to make them look like they had bigger followings than they had. Right? And I mean, this whole thing is an illusion. There's not many people, all right? They're only, look, the very young, right? In the 20s, this last generation has truly been gaslighted. Once, and I put this in that video where I had Yuri say, and the result, and then they talked about, the guy was talking about a man having a baby. Like people who watch that and follow that and buy into that and think it's a thing, like that generation's lost. Right? That generation's lost. But, the good thing is that generation doesn't vote much. And that generation is not, they're not needed right now to make the changes that we need to make. They're not needed. All right? They're welcome, but they're not necessary. So if they stay in their bubble, right? And like Yuri was saying in that clip where he says, these people are programmed to react in a certain way to a certain, to stimuli. And like, that's just, they're gone, right? But that's fine. Let's say they're not. Let's say some of them wake up, right? Like hashtag walk away, right? So there are people, like, I don't believe in the statement that he makes where he says, there's another statement he makes. If you watch that full interview, the link is in the description. If you watch that full interview, there's another case that he makes where he says, once someone's been demoralized, which is what they called it, and the programming is done, that nothing can turn them. Like he could take them, he says, to the Russian concentration camps and show them the piles of bodies, and they will still not deny Marxism. Like that's how strong the influence is. And what we have to realize is that we're now living in a society, like, we've woken up so late. That, we have professors who were taught by professors who were taught by professors who were taught by professors who were Marxists. Like, that's how, the interview with Yuri was 1984, and at that point, he's already telling you. He's like, yeah, he goes, we've infiltrated three generations? I think it was 3 generations, he said. I had a dry throat today. But he said, and that was 1984. Now, things slowed down a little. Like, the 80s was kind of a pushback against all this stuff, right? Because late 60s, it started to become a thing. The hippies were the first ones that came out with this demoralization and pre-programming. And then once they came out, then you had one more generation, and then you had the 80s. And the 80s is where Generation X came in. And it wasn't just Generation X, but it was the adults of that time that were like, enough is enough with the craziness and this hippie madness, this anti-America Marxist crap. And they started to push back. And that's where Reagan came in. And that's why he won so heavily. He was like the perfect president to come in at the perfect time. Talking America being this shining city on a hill, and, being an amazing orator, and, and all that. He was like the perfect person. His second election, I think he won every state. One state I think he might have lost. It was not even close. Now, he had the angle of formerly being the governor of California, but that's right around the time when California got lost. And now for 30, 35 years or so, California's been toast, right? But they're making these moves, and they're not waiting, and they're not asking for permission, and just the cojones to create a board like that is insane. Like, just the cojones to do it is nuts, right? So we got a comment here from Daisy. We're up against the government who is against the citizens. When the state legislators are in the Marxist clan, it's very hard to get things done with fraud in the elections. Yeah, I would argue this to you, though, Daisy. The state legislators, I don't think, are in. Well, I can't say everybody, right? Because you never can say everybody. But the states have been doing things. States have been making changes, right? It's a battle, right? We're in a fight. Like I said, there's Marxists and there are Republicans who are siding on the Marxist side. All right, and it gets messy because some of them aren't even Marxists, but they're just in denial. They're in what Desmet was calling, Mattais Desmet was calling the mass formation. Like they just won't believe that something like that could happen. And then there are other ones who are clearly in the tank. And they're Republicans, and they're clearly in the tank. Right? So, and you don't know which ones are just stupid and which ones are actually, but what we do know is that state legislators are easy to turn over. It's a lot harder to fix a state election because the numbers are so much smaller. Right? So, because we're not even talking about the whole state. We're talking about districts. Right? So now you're in a district. Now, you can't just, fix 100,000 votes in a district. You can't. Like fraud is so much more evident on that kind of local level than it is in these grandiose, extremely large elections. So there's a lot more you can do with your state legislator than you can, otherwise. So when it comes down to it, look, we'll see how these 2022 midterms come out. I can tell you right now, if the Democrats are on fire during these midterms, because even they're on the run right now. So if they end up sweeping something or then we know then we know it's a wrap, and it is what it is. I mean, I've never seen hatred. It's not. I don't want to say I've never seen hatred for a president, because obviously we just had Trump. I've never seen hatred that on this level. But what I haven't seen is uniformity. I'm like even with Trump, like now you've got with Biden, you've got airplane pilots like announcing on the plane, "Let's go, Brandon." Like it's so universal. F you Biden chants. Like none of that happened with Trump, despite the media constantly dogging this guy. None of that happened with him. So that, like in the end, despite the rampant attacks and craziness, like the media is totally hands off on Biden, or at least they were. They're starting to get on him now because they're afraid he's going to run again, right? So, but before that, it was hands off. Don't say anything bad about Biden, and the people took over. The people were like, "Oh, that's okay. We'll handle this. We got this. We'll go ahead and say, say what we got to say." We got a lot of feedback for Brandon here. And we got Eric Chastenay left a link. I can't really post the link up. So how are you, Annie Cakes? Annie Cakes says hello. We're doing well, Annie Cakes. We're doing well. To anyone who came on a little late, on our page, there is, first of all, make sure you follow. Second of all, we played an intro video at the very beginning of this stream, and we would like for you guys to watch it. Watch it all the way to the end, though, and that's the point. That's why I played it on this stream as well. I posted it up to YouTube separately, and that's the one I want you to share, because we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, despite being shadow banned for a month or two now, ever since we started talking Great Reset. So we're trying to get to just finish this leg of the run organically. But the video is very important, and the very, very end is where the main point of the video is. So if you have a short attention span, just sit through it. Hopefully it's entertaining enough that you can stay through it. But it goes over Disinformation Board and things like that, all the way to the Article 5 solution. And then, Yuri Bezmenov makes a quote at the very, very end that kind of ties everything together. So, and another thing is that I want to throw out while I'm on here is we are on Twitter now. So if you missed our last episode regarding Twitter, we did start tweeting on our account on Twitter. However, we just started, so we have no followers. We have like 5 or 6 followers. So if you can go out and help us out on Twitter, not just to follow us, but also to retweet and share our material to help build it up there, because the whole point here, right, is to get the message out. The whole point is to get as many people the message as we possibly can, and that's for that I need you guys. I need you guys, because there's no way that Facebook or YouTube or any of these cats are going to distribute my content for me. There's no way. Like they've made it clear that it's over. They made it clear once I started going Great Reset that they're just not particularly interested in distributing my content anymore, and our distribution just went down significantly. But I still do it, so because I have 0 F's to give, and I'm paying for this, so you know what, I'm doing what I want. That's the topic I want to cover. I'm not violating any policy, so I'm going to keep going at it, and I'm just going to concentrate on you guys to help me distribute it and to help me get it out there, because in the end, I got time. The nation might not have time, but and that's kind of why we need to get this out there, though. But I'm not sweating it. I'm not like I want to monetize the channels. I'd love to. That would be great. But that's not my main mission. Like if there's things that conflict, it's not like, oh, if I do that, then it'll take us longer. Like I don't care. I'll get over that. So like, and in the end, here we go. We got some comments. Let me just go ahead and get this up there. Evan Jager TV, glory to the heroes, UA. And then we've got another one from him saying, where are we at here? Only caskets will return to Russia. Yeah, I pray for the Ukrainian people, but this whole thing, like, this is a NATO problem. Like, this situation gets resolved if NATO doesn't get involved. If NATO just walks away, none of this happens. And they didn't walk away. They stayed on this, not because they're so hard up to get Ukraine into NATO. They could care less, these people. Trust me when I tell you, they could care less. They fought so hard to keep pushing this message of Ukraine and NATO because they knew it was going to trigger what it did. They knew that it was going to trigger the set of events that it triggered, and it did. And all of this, everything is connected, folks. Everything is connected. None of this stuff is happening in a vacuum, all right? None of it. The fact that there's these freaking biolabs in Ukraine that first we said didn't exist, then we acknowledged they exist, then we said, oh, they exist, but there's no pathogens. Then we said, okay, maybe there's pathogens, but they're only there for research purposes, for health and safety. Then they acknowledged, okay, some of these pathogens can cause, serious harm to livestock and things of that nature. And then we know around these locations, there have been issues with livestock over the past 5 years. And now we have a world epidemic of bird flu, combined with the burning down of 20 or more now. I don't even know if a new one came up yet. 20 or more food plant or food processors in the United States in the last year, magically going on fire. And all of this stuff just happening, and we sit here and pretend that it's, nothing to see here. Then they throw up freaking Johnny Depp case, which I know nothing about, but here it comes, right? First the Will Smith smack, now this, and the media just, immediately shifts all attention to these things because there's nothing to see here, right? Don't look over here. Look there. Look there. How entertaining is this Johnny Depp trial, guys? Oh, it's so wonderful. Check it out. Oh, it's so intriguing. Look, oh no, he didn't do this. She did that. She's crazy. He's crazy. Everybody gets into this stupid crap. Meanwhile, they're burning down another food plant. Right? While at the same time, quietly over the last whatever years, you got Bill Gates buying farmland everywhere. BlackRock buying single-family homes by the dozen for years. And everyone's just sitting here arguing about Will Smith. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But that's where we are today, right? And now we have a board. Now we have a Disinformation Governance Board. What the F is going? Like, how do you even have the cojones to put that out there? Like, how does that? And not only that, but to put it out, the timing, like absolutely no concern about the optics either. Like even if there was a scenario where you could legitimately say that you would put, oh well, this is a scenario which there is none. But if there was even if there was, why would you do it right after Elon Musk buys Twitter? How much worse could the optics be? They don't care. This is what should freak everybody out, is they don't care. They'll get on a microphone, they'll put up their advertising about you'll own nothing and you'll be happy and all this. Like they don't care. They don't care, and they're more interested in explaining it to you, in explaining how it's going to be, that there will be universal basic income based on an international standard IMF coin, International Monetary Fund coin. Now, if we're compliant enough, if the United States are a good boy, then they may let us keep the dollar and make that just digitize it and make that the currency. But if we're bad boys, then they're going to just take that away, try and pull it off with the IMF, and create their own digital currency that they can track, that they will know every penny that everybody spends on everything, period. Period. This is the dystopian world. This is why I used 1984 in that intro video. This is why it was very specific and I haven't used that before. I could have. There were other situations that it would have applied to, but when they went directly after openly and straight at speech, that's where it becomes unacceptable. That's where you have to draw the line and move on. So let me get to some more comments here. So even Jager TV, 20,000 dead Russian soldiers, and they have not even begun to die. So Evan, I'm getting it. Here it is. You're from Ukraine. So yeah, and rock on, right? So the Ukrainian people got to do what they got to do. The thing that pisses me off is that really they're going through all this and having to deal with all this because they're caught in the middle of these elites' game. These elites are playing a game back and forth, and the Ukrainian people are just caught in the middle of that crap. And with the false narratives that are just pouring out of the media, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. With all these fake stories coming out, Snake Island and all this other stuff, these fighter pilots, that they're using video games to show graphics for. Like, this is the major mainstream news doing this. It's not like some dude put it together on Twitter. Clearly, they have a narrative that they want to play with. Clearly, and clearly, whatever Russia's propaganda is, like, we're not as privy to that. I'm sure there's plenty of propaganda on Russia's side too, but we know for 100% fact that there's propaganda on our side. Like we're not even good at it. Like, they've got caught at almost every single fake story that they tried to put out. Almost every single one they got caught. So it's like, I just can't. I can't deal with it. I got Angela here. Angela McConnell, Bill Gates is buying out all the land for his future bug-infested, poisonous vegetarian foods. Recipes made by Klaus Schwab. I bet for sure Bill Gates' farmlands will be 100% safe from accidents while all other farmlands disappear. Yeah, Bill Gates is buying up that farmland because they are trying to control this food supply. It's a part of what they need to do. It's a part of the United States has always been the thorn in these people's side. Always. And, and now, there's a narrative that I've heard that I'm not bought into yet, but I'm kind of headed there. And if people will buy, if people know anything about this or have any content about it, I want to know is that this whole scenario because to me, what I saw was China and Russia put out that document in early March where they pretty much said they're creating their own new world order. And it's going to be one with individual countries, handling their own business. And so it appeared to me that this was all I still believe this, that this is kind of a two different new world order visions taking place. Now, someone brought up to me saying, and the reason I say I don't believe this yet is because they didn't have anything to hand me to demonstrate their point, but they're saying that China is actually in on this whole thing. And I'm not seeing it. No evidence that I see shows that. Even for years, China has been showing up to these World Economic Forum meetings and going against the grain. Same with Russia and same with India. So, when they say they're forming an alliance, I have no reason to not believe that. And if they were a part of this whole thing, if it was all in cahoots to get everything to like the WEF is using the Chinese model to of social scores, you're right, where they want to give everybody a social score. They're doing it now, right? We did the episode on ESG scores for corporations, so they're doing it now where they're holding back investment money and making loans more difficult for companies that are not woke, right? So and that's public knowledge. There's nothing, we didn't break a story there, but that's the kind of thing that China does to its citizens. Right. And so because they're using that model, people are starting to tie it together and say, oh, well, that's because in the end, they're going to transfer all of it's going to get controlled by China. And I'm just like, there's too many big egos here for that. And the fact is, unless China, like Russia would never, Russia's not going to sit by and let China run everything, and the rest of these sociopaths are not going to sit by and let anyone run everything. So, in the end, it's going to be interesting watching them battle it out. But the bottom line is we call this convention, we get this done, and we're no longer worried about it. It's no longer a thing, and that's what the main point is, right? Is that we have the power right now to fix this. We've got 19 states on board. And frankly, if this goes viral, right, and all of a sudden, everybody, I'm not saying you got to make a channel, but if everybody just starts sharing Convention of States information, and not even just from our channel, yes, I want you to share our stuff too, but in the end, anything from Convention of States, just share it. Get people, first educate yourself, right? You can do that. You can start that journey on our website. You can further that journey on conventionestates.com and really get yourself up to speed. I've done videos that are explainers for Article 5, how to debunk these runaway convention theories and other stuff you may hear. Like, thoroughly research it. Read Madison's Federalist Papers 40, where he explains why we did what we did in the first convention and why it wasn't a runaway convention even in the first place. Like hear it from the founders, right? Find the real documents. I will aid you the entire way. And so will a myriad of people from Cause Action. Like, there are tons of people who are more than happy to bring you up to speed, but we cannot allow a fear tactic to let this ship sink with the last constitutional bullet we have left sitting in the chamber. That's something that can't happen. Because when this convention gets called, and it will get called, whether it gets called this year or in 2024, which is what they're projecting, the fact of the matter is that's a great projection, and it's all realistic and stuff. But in the end, if we just it kills me that some stupid tweet can go viral, but something like this does not go viral. Like something like this, like we can't make this go viral, but we can make all the other nonsense go viral. And I'm just like, whatever. I'm so over it. All right, so let me see. We got Sheila here. Sheila, how are you? There's so much disinformation out there. Thank you for debunking this crap. Yeah, there's so much. Look, and even we got caught, once with that Russian tank, where they were saying the Russian tank, ran over a civilian car, and that one left me not knowing what the heck happened. Like, they're like, no, that was a Ukrainian tank. It would have a Z on it, but then not all of the Russian tanks have Zs. And then that whole thing made no sense. I don't even want to get into that. But yeah, I know Bongino got caught out there with the Snake Island one with the 13 soldiers who, valiantly told a warship to go F itself and then, died valiantly after they ran out of bullets. And it's like, not only did even the Ukrainian border guard were like, that doesn't make sense. That didn't happen. And then broke the real story, which was that there were 82 of them, and they were all fed and provided hospital care before being released. Very different narrative than a warship slaying 13 civilians valiantly, right? But clearly there was a need to get the message out that Russia was going specifically after civilians, which just doesn't make freaking sense. It just doesn't make any sense. There's families back and forth between Ukraine and Russia. Crimea is like happy to be with Russia. Like, they willingly went over. Everyone talks about, our narrative is that it was a seizure. They came in and took over Crimea. No, Crimeans were happy to go back to Russia. They had no problem with that. And I don't care if someone finds the one guy living in Crimea who's like, no, I wanted to, I don't care. As a whole, Crimea, just like some of Western Ukraine is, and just like there's a resilience in Ukraine, there's resistance with Western Ukraine where they're siding with Russia. Whereas now, Zelensky is now saying they're cracking down on anyone helping Russia. Like, if this was such a devilish thing, why would anyone be helping Russia? Like, this is a complicated issue. It's a complicated issue, and it's not something, it's not something that people should just take their narrative for, because they've clearly lied. They've clearly lied. So let's see what we got here. Sheila, cause. Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be, to my folks in Jersey, there's going to be a large event. We're going to talk more about it in more detail in future episodes, but there's going to be a large event in June for Convention Estates in New Jersey, so stay tuned for that. Daisy Stowe, I went to the elections last year pushing and giving out information on Convention Estates. Thank you, Daisy. We all, America thanks you for that. That's the kind of stuff that we need, all right? But what I want to tell people is, like, as much as I want everybody to go out there and do that, just make sure that you yourself are armed with the right information. Because you don't want it. The worst thing that can happen is we go out and we're doing this and we're promoting it, and then we catch one of these, John Birch Society coconuts, and now this dude who's telling us, they're going to rewrite the whole Constitution, and we're not armed with the information to fight back on these guys, right? Like, because if one of those guys come to me, I will absolutely dismantle them. I've dismantled so many of them. It's almost by default now. I can almost just look at them and they just turn to mush. I've beaten this argument so many times. It's unreal. But you need to make sure that you're in that same stance, because that's what matters, right? And then once they hit you with that, you tell them straight out, like, look, almost everyone who supports convention of states now has been where you are, right? This is what I tell them. Like almost everyone who first heard this, their first reaction was, what? We can amend the Constitution without any input from the federal government at all? It seems crazy. But then you look into it and you find out, you know what? Yeah, you can. And then you come across the fearmongers. Oh, this is crazy. They're going to rewrite the Constitution. Then, and then you got to start going down the road. Then you believe them for a little while, and then you start reading more information. And when you start reading more information, that's when you realize this is another fear tactic. Like, their entire argument makes no sense. They have some historian, Publius, I forget her last name, but like all of these like half-baked freaking PhDs out there, like talking nonsense. There's not even all of them. There's like 5 of them, and just people who grossly misunderstand and don't read the text before they open their mouths, and then go out and make entire arguments based on nothing. And it's like, we've put out a slew of videos on convention of states. I encourage anyone and everyone to check them out. They're probably easier to find. I know we're running on 4 channels now, so they're probably easiest to find on our YouTube channel, because that's where the channel started, and we have the most content there. So, in the end, all of our channels, with the exception of Twitter, Twitch, because I don't think they hold content that long there, but otherwise, all the other channels have most of our content, but like the way the formats are and stuff, it's a little harder to find. You can go right to the channel on YouTube, subscribe while you're there, and then go down and look at the Article 5 for Dummies was one, and there's a whole section for Convention of States that just has everything with our produced videos, our talk videos. We have one video where we go through Madison's Federalist Papers 40, and we go through it in detail to explain things. So just arm yourself with that kind of information. And if you end up having questions after a video or after you said something, shoot it to me. Comment, and I will respond. Okay? You can also email me at info@thepatriotthinktank.com. On Twitter, folks, just as a heads up, I asked everyone to follow us on Twitter. It's not at the Patriot Think Tank. It's at patriotthinktank.com. Okay, at patriotthinktank.com. I apparently started an account in the very beginning, and we never used it, and then I forgot the logins, and I couldn't get in again, so I had to make a new one back in October, which we also never used until now. But that one was at patriotthinktank.com. So if you're having trouble finding us there, we're brand new. We don't have a lot of followers. We'd like you to help that too. But because we're brand new and we don't have a lot of followers, we're not going to be popping in search engines or anything like that for organic and real reasons. All right, let me get back to this. Biden, Harris, Psaki, AOC, Schumer, Omar are devils. You leave anybody out there? I think there's a few. You got to throw Romney in there. You got to throw Romney in there. You got to throw Cheney in there, but I don't disagree. We mentioned what's his name, McConnell, right? There's some Republicans in there, and there's plenty more. There's plenty more Marxists to go in there too. But in the end, yeah, I don't think anybody really can disagree with that. Oh, you left Pelosi out of there too. Come on, Evan. You can't leave Pelosi out of a statement like that. All right. So, Angela, thumbs up from Angela. She's in agreement. That's awesome. And I hear John Burke Society showed up the same day another district captain from Cause was meeting with her legislatures. Pay attention to George. He'll keep us all on the right track. Yeah, John Burke Society is a hot mess. So they've touted themselves as this bastion of conservatism, and then they align with George Soros on the most important freaking issue ever. They align with George Soros. Why? Because they fell for the fear-mongering. And what gets me when an organization like the John Birch Society, I have to think that there's something dubious there. Because they have the resources. like if I can go and read and find this information, surely the John Birch Society can do that. And the idea that they're this heavily against is just crazy. And it's just nuts. And I'm sorry, but my phone went off. And I always tend to check it when I see it go off regularly in case a buddy or someone texts me saying, hey, your video feed went down or or we can't hear you, right? But I see the comments coming through. I see everything moving well. So, yeah. So hey, George, it's Byrne from Jersey, Convention of States District 8. Keep speaking the truth. The Burks are a mess. Yeah, they're a mess. They're a mess. And it's, it's the kind of thing that if you never really engaged in Convention of States, you may look at other issues that this John Birch Society engage in, and you may find commonality. But the fact that we are into Convention of States and they are saying what they're saying, and they are aligning with the worst of the Marxist left. Like, there's no excuse for that. It's just simply unacceptable. And it's something that we can't, nobody should be paying attention to. I don't care if what they say, I don't care if they say something that's exactly in agreement with what you believe in. Like, you need to question it with this group. Because this group of Dutadoos are on a whole nother level to what truth and justice should be. Right? Because for no conservative in their right mind, once they've read all the documents, and you got to think that they have. Like, I can understand someone legitimately, and I turn these people over all the time online. Like, people say you never win an online argument. I win them all the time. Whether it's on MeWe, or MeWe is where you get the most of the conservative, they're going to steal the Constitution and all that. But it comes on Facebook on occasion too, and you get it around, and in the end, I listen to all of this, and I say to myself, all right, let me think this through. All of us have been where you are. So, all of these people that are complaining about it, some of them are diehard. And they're in, and you're never going to change their mind. You can learn that early. But many of them, and most of them, I would say, they're where most of us were. They believe it, but they don't really understand the whole process. Like, they still don't fully, they haven't fully vested their time to go as deep as people like me have gone, and really dig into Federalist Papers and really understand what the original Constitution was about, how it laid out, all those things. And that's when you get to the point where you see, right? And that's a big deal, because, once you see, right? Once you see, you cannot unsee. So in the end, once you see and you see past that, then you start looking at it like, all right, well then now that I know what I know, what's the deal with the John Birch Society? Right? Like, what's up with these guys? Like, why are they where they're at on this? Like, they clearly can read all of this information's available for them as well. Why are they not? Why are they where they're at? And it's, it's one of those things where it's kind of like Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is there's something shady there. There's just something off with that organization. And it's important, And Karen Logan says Canada has been fighting against it. Yeah, Canada's been fighting. Look, we're all right. The world is all in on this one. We're all in on this one. Right? Like, in the end, the whole idea that anybody agrees with these folks is one of the biggest gaslighting operations ever in the history of this world. That maybe it's the second biggest to convincing a generation that men can have babies. I just like that one. I can't get over. But no, it clearly is the biggest gaslighting operation ever. Is that the world is behind this somehow. No one is behind this. Nobody who understands this wants this. But they're going to move forward with it anyway. That alone should creep you out. It alone should creep you out that they're not even interested in getting your buy-in. It doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. Like, that's where they are. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, and then Eric says, just like China, and I think that's in reference earlier on. I had to pull that one up earlier. Sorry, Eric, I missed it when it popped up. But just like China, I think that's in reference to the social scores. and where, if you're not aware, China has a social score system where everybody has to behave a certain way and you get assigned points for it, very much like our companies do. And like I showed you in that ESG episode that I did, the recorded one, where it broke down how the ESG scores work, environment, social, and governance, and that the big four made those rules, and now if you don't comply with them or you have a crappy ESG score, you can't get funding. You can have issues with the bank. Like, they value this score because of the new stakeholder capitalism, which we also covered. They value the score to the point where they're going to hurt your company financially, and that's where all your pregnant emojis come from. Your pregnant man emojis, and Coke telling its employees to be less white, at Disney fighting legislation to protect parents. Like, that's where all this comes from, is ESG scores. Disney's might be a little more dubious even than that, but that's the general theory of where all this stuff comes from, is that they need to score well on these ESG scores in order to secure their funding. Like, literally, a large corporation could go to a Bank of America or something like that and be told, no, they consider you a risk because you don't score well on ESG. That's how crazy it is. I mean, Tesla, an electric car company, one of the main metrics in ESG is environmental, and Tesla, the absolute hands down leader in electric vehicles, the company that made electric vehicles cool, is like mid-tier to low. They're mid to high risk is how they're rated, right? Because Musk isn't woke. That's why. Because while they clearly smash it out of the park on the environmental side, it's that whole social side that doesn't work so well. So they go ahead and knock Tesla. You can bet they'll be attacking him. Musk got his work cut out for him as far as what is this we need? So here's Mern saying there's a lot of state capital rallies this weekend. Hope people got out and supported their states. People are trying to make a difference. Yep, absolutely. And it's important, guys, so for those that aren't already signed up, right, you can get the link from our website, or you can go straight. But you go to the cause website. It's conventionofstates.com. Or you could get it from our website if you want to see like where your state legislation is and read the actual resolution. Then that would be the way to go. But we have a link to the cause site on there as well for you to register and for you to sign the petition. And the petition is basically state by state. So what will happen is you'll fill out the petition, and then they will ship a letter to your senator or to your local representative, and that will let them know that you, as their constituent, are very much in favor of Convention of States. And then you can register there, and they will actually reach out to you and let you know what's going on in your state, and let you know, what events there are, what's going on, if there are a rally, are there meetings, or people getting together, those sort of things. I went to one. Our district captain here did a handwritten letter event that I went to. So which is very powerful, by the way. You write a handwritten letter to your state legislator. They read them. Okay, they read them, especially the handwritten ones, right? You send them an email, they'll probably read it, but we all know that we don't treat email the same way we do. Like, if you open up something and somebody hand wrote a letter, you're going to read that. If someone, just if for nothing else, the time that it took them to sit down and write that letter, knowing that they probably erased and scratched out and had to, write it again, whatever. So you're going to read that letter. So, but those are ways you can get active for sure. Thanks, Mern, for sharing that. And again, we're going to be going over some events, and Mern and Sheila also is on there from Cause. And, you guys can just feed me dates and events and stuff that's going on. And we can make sure that we talk about it, or at least give it a shout on the broadcast, just to make sure if you got something going on in Kansas or Kentucky, or and we know about, and someone on from there, they didn't know, they can get involved, that sort of thing. So for sure. Yeah, and here's Jersey. So there's monthly meetings all over Jersey. So and I did my whole family lives in Jersey, so I can definitely appreciate that. I actually just left Jersey. I was there for little less than a month ago for my nephew's wedding. Let's see if we got anything else here. So I'm getting ready to wrap this up, but I want to make sure if you just came on now, then you almost surely missed the intro video. So I have that video isolated on YouTube. So I posted that to our Facebook page to make it easy. So you can actually just take that and share it. But when you share it, please, first of all, when you watch it, make sure you watch it till the end, because the end is where the main point is, right? There's a quick statement made out of nowhere in the very end that brings home the reason for all of this, right? And then with that, when you share it, make sure you put it in the description that, that they should watch to the end, that the whole point is made at the very end. And because it is, right? So, and here's Brent. Thanks for all the shout outs. We appreciate you. Yeah, you know what? You guys are awesome. You guys are doing the real legwork, right? So, in the end, I'm just trying to keep the voice going, and California is kind of slow pickings, for any righteous political movement. But I knowing that I had the channel going, knowing that I had a voice to speak with, I think it was my best effort to go ahead and use it for something that I am very much behind and something that I am very, very fired up about. Let's see what we got here. All right, so I think we're coming to a close, but I appreciate. So we're actually past an hour. We're at like an hour and 15 minutes, which is usually where we end up. So like I'm starting to, I don't know if I just schedule these things for an hour and 15 minutes, but it's like I just kind of get on and do this and then realize after an hour and 15 minutes that it's been over an hour. So, but I appreciate everyone coming on. Check out that intro video and make sure you subscribe and follow. So if you're watching on YouTube, help us get to that 1,000 mark. They've been shadow banning us since we got to 860, and now we're kind of crawling forward. So we could definitely use your support there. And then follow us on Facebook. We're available on MeWe, and we're also on Rumble. We're Twitch as well. So if you are someone, most of our base doesn't really use Twitch. It's kind of a younger base. But if you do happen to be on Twitch, then follow us there as well. But until then, we'll talk to you next time. Thank you, and I'm out.
And like that,